Hey, this is Mountain Ghost 556. I've been gone for about 5 years now. I haven't made any new YouTube videos since a long time ago. Just haven't had the time or the ability or the availability to make any. But now things have changed, and I'm ready to jump back in and make some YouTube videos. I really enjoyed it making them the first time. I enjoyed some of the people I met on there, so I'm hoping I can try to recreate that experience for the better by starting to post again. So anyways, let me get to the topic at hand with my first video that I'm going to put out since I've been on my sabbatical, as you could say. I was talking to a friend about 4 years ago, and he had went and bought all these seeds in this seed vault. And I thought that was really cool, and he was telling me about all these seeds and stuff like that, and I was like, oh wow, man, which one are you going to plant first? And he was like, well, I'm not going to plant any, I'm going to save these until, the apocalypse, or whatever you want to call, comes down the pipe. And I said, oh, okay, I was like, so are you going to buy some of the same variety of seeds that's in there and plant them? And he's like, no, why? It's not that hard to grow plants. I was like, wow, I started laughing. I said, it takes some people lifetimes to learn how to plant just a few plants to produce food. And he's like, well, I just see people throw seeds in the ground and stuff grows. And I thought, well, you better start practicing before you have to rely on this for a food source. And that got me to thinking, and to my own inability to really grow anything. I mean, I've helped people grow, and I've helped people in gardens. My mom had a little tomato garden. One of my friends had a fairly big, decent-sized garden, and my grandparents gardened, but I'm nothing like them, and I don't have their ability or their experience as a person that's grown food in a sustenance capability. So it got me to thinking. So about 3 years ago, I basically started to experiment with growing in containers as I lived in an apartment, and I had a decent little back porch area with good southern exposure, and I thought, okay, well, let's see how this is. And I tried different methods of germinating, growing indoors and stuff like that, and then I moved them outdoors. And at first it started to look really good, as all things do, and then it turned out to be a complete tragedy. I didn't grow anything. Most of everything didn't even get past its true leaves. Just total tragedy. And I was a little dismayed, but with everything, you got to keep trying. So the second year of my gardening, it actually produced pretty well. I grew peppers, tomatoes, and beans. The tomatoes did not work out at all. Totally just a flop. Not good at all. And I kept thinking, I was like, wow, a lot of these people that buy seeds and think they're just going to throw them in the ground never even have started to even try to experiment with growing them in whatever environment they're in, whether it be an apartment, whether it be suburbs. Even rural people that live out in rural areas that have never grown anything are still going to have a hard time growing this, because it takes a lot of effort and a lot of work just to maintain and attend to these plants. So my third year, which is this year, I'm beginning to get a little bit more successful, and I'm starting to learn a lot more through trial and error, basically doing it instead of just I'm just going to rely on the dirt to do it. Because a lot of people sit there and say, well, you need to go out and practice with your bug out bag. You need to practice with your bug out bag. You need to practice with your tools and stuff. Well, if you buy seeds, wouldn't the same thing apply to practicing with your bug out bag? Practice growing. And that's one thing, is practice growing stuff. So when the time comes that you have to rely on those seeds as food and sustenance, then it's going to be there. So this year I've grown a variety of different plants, and most of them have been pretty successful. We're still in the beginning phases. This is an experiment. I'm not saying that I'm growing anything to feed families. I'm just doing this to see what I can grow, how well it grows. So at the time that I do need to plant these particular seeds that I have, I'll have a basic understanding of what to do and how to do it. And it'll be better than just saying, oh, I got seeds, now what do I do? Because like I said, everybody says practice with your bug out bag, practice your skills. Gardening and farming is a skill that pays off in the end, but like I said, it takes people lifetimes. And there's various different methods of growing stuff, whether you're in an apartment, containers, whether you're in a city, which you could grow containers or raised beds, or suburbs, vice versa. Rural people, hands down, got it the best. You can plant in-ground gardens, and you just got to try it and practice it. So I'm going to go through and show you a few of the gardening options that I have, and we're going to go through my experiment. Okay, here we are outside the driveway outside the front of my house, and what I have grown here are bell peppers. This is my first container garden or container plant that I've ever grown, and it seems to be quite successful. You can see it's got good lush leaves. They're quite big. It's healthy. For the most part, I do have some leaf miner problems, and I've always gotten those for the past 2 years. They've not been a real major issue, but it's still something I'd like to figure out, and I'm trying to do it in an organic way. But this is definitely better than the first time I tried to container garden, which they barely came out of the dirt and then they just died. But this is my green peppers. They're my green bell peppers. Like I said, you could grow this on your back porch, in your apartment if you have the capability, have a back porch, or on your front porch if you got good southern exposure and stuff like that. Got a little issues with these leaves, but for the most part this plant's relatively healthy. I don't use pesticides or anything like that. As you can see right here, got me some bell peppers starting to come up. Each one of these plants yields about 3 to 4 bell peppers, and there's about 6 plants there, so you can do the math. But this is one method. This is container growing, and I'm pretty excited about it. I hope that I'm going to get some bell peppers this summer. Okay, moving on to the next ones. Okay, here we are to my raised bed tomato plants and Jerusalem arterweed, which is a Jerusalem artichoke, just trying to be funny. This year my tomato plants they actually flowered. They're doing quite well. I'm impressed. I have actual tomato, looks like a tomato's growing. So these are doing all right. We'll see. Like I said, this is an experiment. I don't expect this to feed anybody or any large amount of people. We had a hailstorm about 4 months ago, about 4 months ago, wiped out a lot of my garden. These are still some of the survivors. That's why they kind of look a little beat up and not so well. But these are my survivors right here, and they're actually doing really well. We'll move on to the second raised bed. This is my pepper plants. I think these are big gems. They actually survived the hailstorm. I didn't think they were going to. I call it the hailocalypse. They're starting to do really well. I've got right here, I've got my sweet yellow melon. I did not think this bad boy was going to survive. It really took a beating in the hailstorm. But as you can see, it's starting to thrive and flourish. It's even trying to go AWOL, trying to escape get out of prison. Come on, guy, over here. Okay, now to my in-ground garden, which was absolutely decimated by the hailstorm. I have my Mucho Nachos right here, which are doing really well. As you can see, they're getting big and healthy. These guys fared decent in the hailstorm. I got my Serranos right here. They're coming out good. I've got a bunch of these I've picked already because of the simple fact that I made some hot sauce with them. These were going to be jalapenos, more bell peppers, and big gems. They were wiped completely out from the hailstorm. This is the corn. Not looking too good, but like I said, this is an experiment. I'm learning quite a bit as I go along. They were almost decimated. And this was the section for my tomatoes. This is where all my tomatoes were going to go. This row was almost wiped out. Didn't think these were going to make it. These are starting to come back. This is just a very small garden. As I said, it's an experiment. These are just experiments. These aren't anything to feed anything. So if I do get the seeds and I do grow from seed and I do get all this, I know what to expect from these plants. And I know how to do it. Just like your bug out bag, you need to practice growing and gardening. Okay, well, this is 556. Out.